welcome, and I will let people in as and when they join. Yes, so Sarah joined the walk, our tography walk up Dinas Brân, from which I've created this short presentation. Molly was hoping to join in a separate thing, but we haven't managed it yet, but hopefully we can still do it soon. And I think it's probably best if I just start the presentation. Hi, Emma.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk.
So Emma made it to the conference for a day.
It was
Okay,
lovely.
so I'll just get started and run through it and we can chat afterwards. So it's about 15, probably between 15 and 20 minutes. So I'm going to take you on a journey into the mythology of Dinas Brân and this concept of artography, which I've been working with in my research. And it's something that's really sort of helped me as somebody who's bounced in between lots of different roles over the years. So I come to research from a variety of roles, as I say, including sort of community practice, arts for health, mainly actually graphic design background, working for social enterprise, so trained in holistic modalities like yoga and energy work and some other things as well. And one type of work I've really enjoyed the last few years is coaching and mentoring. And currently I'm a PhD student and said that at Aberystwyth University and Exeter universities, looking at therapeutic landscapes and creative practice. So our setting for this journal is Castle Dinas Brân, which Sarah and Emma will remember from our walk together. It's just outside Llangollen, as you all know, and I'll just add some info from my notes. So it translates as Castle of the City of Crows, or the place where crows might live. Dinas is fort or stronghold. We see that a lot across Wales and England as the word. Dinas Brân is an Iron Age hill fort with a medieval castle built over it. So over January, did an artist walk and a couple of walks in pairs and solo walks by myself up Dinas Brân, including Sarah and Emma and a bunch of other creatives from North Wales, a local area, and over into Shropshire and Staffordshire you're in, Sarah?
I'm in, where am I?
Worcestershire.
Dudley Borough, so we're...
Yeah, but we'll get onto the border. We thought crossing the border was a nice aspect of our walk.
Very nice.
Excuse me. So I'll just tell you some stories before we dive into the artography side of things. So the local folklore, which was one of the focuses of this conference, which is a therapeutic landscapes, ritual, folklore and myth conference at the weekend, we chose to explore some local folklore. So Bran may have been a Cornish prince. Bran the Blessed pops up in lots of different myths and legends. He might have been King Bran Vendigaid, or Bendigaid Bran is known as a Celtic god as well, and he appears in Welsh and Irish mythology. And like King Arthur's knights, he went to recover a vessel of plenty from on a mission, a Celtic cauldron of rebirth. And after being wounded, the land perished around him, and his still speaking head was cut off. It was taken to the Tower of London, where it was buried to guard the land. And that's an interesting corvid link as well. We talked about different myths and legends and places where corvids are a feature. I will just cough like many other people this week for continuing. We also have Gog Magog, who was a giant he attacks the arrogant Norman knight Pain Peveril, and they defeat the giants. Upon dying, the giant tells them of a great treasury buried beneath Dinas Brân. That's quite a big local legend, but there's all sorts of stuff buried under there, but dies without revealing its location, and Gog Magog pops up in other myths as well. Lots of fairies. The Tylwyth Teg might be familiar if you're from Wales, the little people. There's a big walnut tree somewhere apparently, which was a wedding place, a ritual site for the fairy folk. There's a hollow called Hollow of the Goblins, and lots of myths involving fairies and dancing. And we also have Myfanwy, so you've grown up with male voiced choirs at all, Myfanwy is one of Wales's most famous love songs, and she was a princess allegedly who lived in Dinas Brân, which was news for me. Myfanwy was renowned for her beauty and enchanted by a poor bard who wrote her poems and songs because he was in love with her, but sadly she was just entertaining him because she wanted someone to write poems for her, and so his affections were not returned. She married someone else and he wandered the valley, citing poetry and songs about his unrequited love. So we shared these stories on our walk on the way up the hill. Excuse me. So this idea of artography is a concept mostly and in academia, but used in practice quite a lot as well. It was founded by artist and scholar Dr Rita L Irwin, who's over in Canada, late 90s, early 2000s, and it was developed by Rita, but actually very much in collaboration with peers. It means simply the A, artist, R, researcher, T, teacher. And these are equal roles which exist simultaneously. They can be applied to any discipline and they need not be professional. So we don't have to be a professional like artist or teacher, a facilitator or group leader of any kind. By researcher, we can mean or simply someone who's curious about the world. Graphy, writing or recording to form meaning, but so people have linked it in conversations I've had recently with like topography and things like that, and geology. So you could just go to town on it really. And I've had a conversation with Rita. I'm just waiting for her permission to share it as an audio interview. We spoke on Zoom a few weeks ago. So just to go over a few ideas from artography, the literature is very dense on it, it's quite academic. So picking my way through to pull out a few concepts to share. As a practice, artography is rhizomatic. So in this country, you might focus more on the mycelial. It's about the connected thinking, the underground, multiple perspectives with no beginning or end. It's very embodied. There's lots of walking practice in artography, actually, lots of doing, holistic thinking, lots of physicality. Artography is situated usually in a real world place or a community, maybe an online virtual context or within a network. It's happening somewhere in time and or space. And artography is emergent as an approach. It values questions over answers. It's a let's see what happens kind of approach. Not as bad as it sounds, I promise. And the other concept I'll introduce people to, which Emma and Sarah did find out about on the walk, is that of renderings. This nice idea of renderings pops up in artography a lot, which are sort of spaces that reciprocate engagement. Rita Irwin and her friends like Stephanie Springay's, another very interesting walking artist who has written a lot about artography. These spaces that offer reciprocal engagements offer portals to knowing and being research, as Rita and friends put it. So I think as creatives, we're used to opening up portals and spaces where things can happen that aren't quite of the ordinary. So I'll just run through the 6 main renderings from the research, but the idea is you can add or invent your own. It's a very mutable concept. Contiguity, the first one, was a new word on me, and it means multiple things existing at once. So back to those idea of roles being simultaneous. Living inquiry, which I believe is quite a big field anyway. Simply our work's a living, breathing thing, and so are we. Openings, again, back to portals, spaces, ways of seeing things. Metaphor is very familiar to artists and creators anyway. And my favourite concept is reverberations. And by this, artography scholars mean like energy vibrations. And a Japanese artist called Aoki wrote about this in terms of shaking meaning to the surface, which I really love. Also, as someone who works quite holistically and with is starting to maybe understand energy a bit more. And I love that idea that the vibrations that we create are as much a part of the creativity as anything else. Excess, by this, what is meant is kind of making more than is necessary. Like we could make a cup of tea because we need a cup of tea and we need some food, we need some dinner, but we could also make a painting. So artists are always making in creative excess anyway. But what's also meant by this, according to Rita, is engaging with the unseen, possibly the ugly, the marginalized, the parts that of society and the world that people maybe don't want to look at. So we walked with these ideas, this idea of being artographers, gently taking on board that concept and playing with it a little, and with the local folklore and the landscape. And the invitation was to all respond creatively in some way on or after the walk. And what I've done is collate all that into a short film, which is 2 minutes long.
The place where crows live, in a vessel of plenty, and they guard the land, they guard the land. A place where crows live, in a vessel of plenty, and they guard the land, they guard the land. Bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time, and bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time, and bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time and place. In a bitter wind, a bitter water, can treasure ever stay buried? A vessel of plenty, hollow with the heart threads, a generous space. In a bitter wind, a bitter water, can treasure ever stay buried? A vessel of plenty, hollow with the heart threads, a generous space, a place where crows live. In a vessel of plenty, and they guard the land, they guard the land. A place where crows live. In a vessel of plenty, and they guard the land, they guard the land. Bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time, and bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time, and bright sunlight, fierce wind, rooted in time and place. Rooted in time and place. Rooted in time and place, and time and place, and rooted in time and place. Rooted in time and place, time and place, time and place, rooted in time and place. Place where crows live.
Here we go. So we've got Sarah's lovely words here. Thank you, Sarah. And I hope that the film gives you a sense of the shared portal that we created to walking together. And it really did feel like one as well, and how that experience helped render our creative responses. And Sarah, you commented, didn't you, that the walk keeps re-rendering a bit like a film, like coming into focus and coming back again. And I don't know about you, Sarah and Emma, but that song's been in my head for since the walk, basically. Well, since Kate sent it to me and I made the film. Every time I go out, every time I see a crow. So as well as these creative responses, I gathered some feedback about our walk and evaluated a little bit, which has been quite revealing in terms of how an approach like artography might benefit us as practitioners. From the group feedback, it seems that artography crosses borders. We walked as artists from different sides of the border. One creative commented it gave us confidence in crossing borders in discipline. And another suggested it might possibly provide a bridge between these, sometimes you say artist, creative practitioner, creative creative enabler. It maybe gives the bridge if we need it. As a social experience, the walk instilled community and also gave us like a shared frame of reference. I think it was Julie who said that it's a place of historical unrest as well, on a border. So we had a space to explore that together and maybe create something positive from that, coming from different sides of that boundary line. Tography offered us multiple ways in. It gives us a number of angles to look at the same subject from or approach it in a different way. And I like to think of this as having different hats and having permission to wear them all at the same time. And that links for me back to the rhizomatic and mycelial through those openings and those portals. Artography makes us feel like explorers. I find it quite fun. I'm quite nerdy, so it makes, I don't know, it gives me quite a sense of exploration and possibility. And it seemed that other people in the group felt the same way, and opens up more of a sense of making meaning, finding, sharing that active exploration and curiosity, that energy, and back to creating those reverberations again. The challenges I've identified with artography as an approach is in planning and funding projects. Rita spoke to me about how it's quite difficult to use it as an approach in like funding applications and stuff like that, because it is emergent and explorative. We can't say exactly what's going to happen. And some people obviously like more of a plan. It's potentially inaccessible to some who don't enjoy, understand, or need these types of frameworks, or words for things. Also possibly to community groups, members of the public. They don't need like complicated like words for things. And as I said, the current literature is very dense. Yeah, back to the inaccessible point as well. One group member commented that, oh, I do all these things anyway, like why do I need a word? I don't really need a word for it, or see what it gives me, like it's fun. But some people don't need those kinds of frameworks. And the other sort of, I hate the word outcome, but I think finding is that actually the experience of the walk, possibly, you know, with or without the idea of artography, gave us a good boost for well-being in the group. This is some lovely words from Kate about how she found the walk, and sort of she said she felt very supportive and immediately in kind of community with people who she'd never really met before. A lot of people in creative practice talk about isolation, and I can certainly speak from my own lived experience as a freelance creative, not being always great for mental health. And other members of the group indicated that had been a very nourishing experience, very connective, not just on the day itself, but in a way that keeps reverberating afterwards. And I felt this myself. I've been up there about 3 or 4 times now by myself since our walk, and I feel those energetic echoes of our day together, our sharing, our creativity. So the events I created this presentation for was focused on therapeutic landscapes, which is an idea from cultural geography. So it's a whole other sort of concept field I could introduce you to, but it's not big or complicated, particularly just the idea that the landscape and environments can be seen through a therapeutic lens. And so I put these ideas in context of the therapeutic landscape to finish. And it seems to me that artography is a layered way of reading, researching, and responding to landscape, which includes folklore. And Wilbert Gesler, who coined the term therapeutic landscapes in 1992, wrote that the symbolic helps us interpret the therapeutic landscapes. Excuse me. I think I've sort of mentioned throughout the talk that artography, it seems, might offer a quite a holistic understanding of what we do, offer these group experiences as ritual, and enhance our depth of environmental understanding. Scholar called Claire Nolan, who's friends with actually came to the talk at the weekend, which was a lovely link, had studied heritage landscapes and well-being, and her thought is that being in therapeutic landscapes and the heritage landscape opens up this sort of multitude of vistas, which I really like as a phrase. And so you know, I got now, yes, scholars like more recently, like Carolina Doughty, have gone into like walking and more the arts practice side of thing with therapeutic landscapes, and write of things like it creating a sociable good in a way to be in the landscape through these situated practices such as art practice, walking arts, artography. And so I think really anything that enriches our practice as creatives and our well-being is going to benefit the communities and groups we work with on some level. So future, I want to write a paper from this, which will be available later this year. There may be a publication from the conference at some point. As a group, walking group, we were thinking of making some shared resources, which might come after sort of future walks. Somebody suggested a book, which would be lovely. I had a group request for more walks and more mystical places. And it will form a basis for like participatory arts strands in my PhD too. And we formed a new network and kinship group. So I'll just end with Tom's lovely words, the dancing one. Separate structure, voices, words, personalities. The wind takes care of all that, blows us apart, weaves us back together using the heart thread, that imagined thread that has no beginning and no end. Okay, now my details if anyone wants to get in touch, but we're all in touch anyway. There's references, so I'll share the slides as well. I thought we could just have a chat now, and yeah, if anybody's got any comments or any new thoughts.
It was great.
Molly.
It's great to see it, Emily. It's lovely.
Oh, great. I'm glad. Yeah, I wanted to record it all for everyone who came on the walk as well, because it sort of condenses that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's generating material for us all to use as well. Hi, Molly. Back again. Hi.
Sorry, I've had multiple internet and other issues this morning. Sorry, I was a bit abrupt when I joined.
No worries.
Thank you, that was lovely. Although I just missed about 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, all I said at the end was what was next, coming next. But does anyone have any reflections or thoughts?
It feels very inspiring. Like it was inspiring on the day, but it feels like a reminder of like exciting things.
Yeah, I like being reminded of some of the artography thinking, that the idea of the renderings and the portals and that living inquiry. You know, if you run workshops or you deliver work, there's always that point at the end where you say to people, don't just go off into your world and just think that that's a separate experience. The workshop is a separate experience. It's what do you take from that into your daily world, and we all know that as practitioners, that's what happened. But
one thing that relates a bit to thing I'm trying to unpick at the moment is getting away from this like project and portfolio mentality that we have in the arts. And actually I think it's about dividing everything up into separate projects all the time. Whereas actually a living inquiry is more about an ongoing. And I was like, oh, how do I like present that or like things like that on a website or something, because it can be quite tiring to constantly think about these, you know, things like different projects. But I suppose, you know, we need to, for our own sanity, sort of, I know, section things off into different experiences, but what are the threads that keep running in between?
I think it's a bit of a balance as well between having that freedom, but also having some structure that gives you structure, but also makes it kind of easier to explain to other people what you're doing. Yeah, and especially in terms of dry stuff like funding and things, I guess it can be quite useful too.
Yeah, and it's condensing stuff down into as few words, which is always useful, I suppose. Any other thoughts, or does it, I don't know, make you think of anything from your own work, or is useful in a different way, or relate to anything else you might have been reading or thinking about recently?
I really loved what you said about, I think the term was shaking meaning to the surface, shaking up meaning. I think I often don't talk about it that much, or even admit to myself how much I feel like I'm just uncovering or like drawing out meaning. I mean, I'm a picture maker. I've got my plates here about to start something. I literally feel like I'm drawing something up to the surface, especially because a lot of my imagery is around sort of landscape and a bit of myth and things. And I feel like that really spoke to me, that idea of like shaking something to the surface and it almost swimming up out of somewhere. But yeah, quite a nebulous thing to explain sometimes.
Yeah, beautiful. Would you like to say just, should we go around and sort of introduce, because you all know me, but you don't know each other, and we should ideally do that at the beginning, but we start the presentation. Do you mind saying a few words about your practice, Molly?
Yeah, well, I am a printmaker if I need a label, but I think, as you were just describing, Emily, I'm sort of interested in so much more than that, and kind of living your art practice as well. I'm also a grower. I'm very much a plant-minded person, and a lot of my work is kind of looking at, I would guess, connection to place through a framework of using botanical imagery, really, because that's what I interact with most. What else? Yeah, so that's kind of it. I can show you a print. I'll bring it off the wall. Might explain more.
Great.
That's the type of work I do. It's relief printing mainly. I don't know if you can see that or if the reflection is.
We can see it quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
lovely.
thank you. And that one was, I think that the bit about the portals that you were describing, that really speaks to me as well, because I feel like not only is the image a sort of portal, but the landscape is a portal. So it's kind of this, yeah, you're kind of bringing in and you're sort of opening up a space somehow when you make this kind of picture.
Yeah, lovely. And that portal sort of stays open, doesn't it? If yeah, which if you have a piece of artwork on your wall that you really connect with, it is always that little world to look into. Thanks, Molly. Emma, would you like to just say a few words about your practice and what kind of work you do?
I like, at the moment, I'm enjoying painting and I guess like maybe expressive mark making, I guess we could call it that. I like walking. I like finding joy in like the everyday, and like I guess reminding people that there's so much joy available to us like at all times, and that like we can choose joy. I think that's where like that's what, I don't know if it comes through in my work, it might not, I don't know, but that's what I care a lot about. I really enjoyed the walk as well, because I love crows and I love being in Wales, and it was just really nice to be around everybody.
Lovely. It's great to have you on the walk. Would you just like to tell us a few words about your practice, Sarah?
Yeah, I was just reminded of a lovely quote that you're talking about portals and these kind of openings into other worlds. It's a lovely quote from Elaine Scarry, and she says, "When we come upon beautiful things, they act like small tears in the surface of the world that pull us through to some vaster space." So they're kind of as an access through to something just bigger than ourselves, isn't it? Quite often. But I also liked what you were talking about, Molly, about this with like a withdraw or drawing force, and I do quite a lot of large drawings, sculptural drawing practice, and I often think it's not drawing and laying on, it's something that's emerging. So the surface of the paper is speaking back. So there was resonated with what you were talking about. And I have a very much, I have fortunate to have a studio now, but for a long time it's home-based practice. So the garden, home, it all folds into one. Your idea of living inquiry is literally living, breathing, drawing. There isn't really a line separating those things. So I always say to people, don't just think that you only make in your studio. That's not very good. That's not a healthy art practice, is it? It's got to be in the planting and the going out with your coffee in the first light of the day. That's a living, that's kind of how you need to have your inquiry going on. I've appreciated your talking. I've appreciated this, of just framing certain things that one does intrinsically with the language.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciated everybody's input as well, and it was actually been an invitation for me to step out of doing that framing and back into my own practice a bit, and get back into that more simplistic place with things where it's just about sort of getting quiet and listening, having that conversation with what you're doing, the simple moments. Actually just deleting vast sections of my website the other night because I had to do some tweaks to it, and just I would say all the things that if you sort of mixed media and writing and movement wise, that's all been very static for me actually for a couple of years, and starting this research has actually started to take me out of the heady place. Whilst you have to, I think, get used to stepping or dancing between the two, but I just wrote a very simple thing the other night, which was art and words express themselves through me in waves as I move through this life. Walking in the landscape and spending time in my body connects me to something bigger and yet deeply internal, time and space to bring multi-sensory healings into the world. And yeah, it was the first time I've sort of written or said anything about my practice and actually felt anything for quite a long time. So that was nice. Yeah, it was very nice. And bringing together all those responses from the walk as well helped open up that conversation. Yeah, really interesting process.
It was lovely to see the film of Tom again. Just
yeah.
terrifying wind.
Was actually terrifying at points.
It was really terrifying. I didn't know how he stayed upright.
Yeah. So there's a talk. I will make this recording available if that's okay. So you're all okay to be in it? Yeah, great, lovely. And so the link will be available if you want to share it with anybody. And I'll keep a main list, hopefully get some dates in the diary over spring, summer for some more excursions, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, and have a great day.